Hello and welcome to this webinar called Thriving at Work but Struggling in Relationships. I'm Cass Naidu and I am a transformational coach. So a quick overview of what we're going to cover in this webinar is we're going to look at the current challenges that independent women are facing today. We're going to look at the reasons for these challenges, how it manifests in our lives, how we can heal, and the possibility after we have healed. And watch till the end because I've got a very special free offer for you. So who the heck is Cass Naidu, and what gives me the right to talk about this kind of transformation? Well, I've been coaching for the last 23 years now, and I'll tell you that what worked 23 years ago does not work today. So for me, my goal is to constantly be evolving, becoming the next best version of myself, and to just keep growing so that the service I offer is also transforming and growing to meet the current challenges that we face. I have this really deep desire to help independent women like you reclaim their full feminine power. And I know a lot of the time we think the masculine energy is strong and the feminine energy is weak. And that is the biggest mistake we make. And that is a part of the reason for the challenges that we face today. So it's about reclaiming your full feminine power and then consciously creating lives of freedom, love, and prosperity. So over the last few years, talking about this kind of transformation and the feminine energy and how it impacts our relationships and our money, I have been invited onto various radio stations. As a guest, I've written over 70 articles for various newspapers, and I've been interviewed by other journalists for expert opinion on these topics. So normally it's like you've got to do 10,000 hours to be considered an expert in the field. Over the last 23 years, I've done multiple 10,000 hours so that I could bring you this information in a condensed version so you don't have to spend the next 20 years trying to get all of this information to change your life, right? So why am I focusing on independent women? Firstly, I get you. We don't get support. Because we're independent, the people in our lives depend on us. So we are able to support and help many people in our lives. But when we're having our challenges, when we're feeling overwhelmed by life, when we're feeling this is too much, I can't handle this anymore, and we go to one of those people that we're helping and we say, right now, I'm overwhelmed. I need the support. Frequently, I find this is my experience, right? I'll find that those people will say to me, oh, Cass, you got this. You have the answers. You're strong. You know what to do. Don't worry. It's all going to work out. And it just leaves you feeling even more alone when you know that you have the ability to provide so much support, but when you need support, it's actually not available for you. The second reason is that you have influence. I look around and I say, if you look at like some of these very famous actors, actresses in the world, and they have millions of followers, and you think that they are in a position where they can have a huge positive impact on these millions of people. But when someone's in and out of rehab and they, caught shoplifting and they're going from one relationship to the other, that is what they are passing on to these millions of followers. And I'm saying, when you come to that place and you can step into your full authenticity as a person, as a woman, you have this kind of influence. So imagine the impact you can make when you are living from a place of wholeness, your true authenticity, balancing your masculine and feminine energies, right? We're going to talk a lot about that in this program. And it's really time for us to stop fitting in. I look at my gorgeous, amazing women that are doing so incredibly well in the workforce. And they are just so tired and exhausted. And the reason for that is that they are leading purely from their masculine energy. We're going to talk a bit more about that. So it's time for you now to understand what the feminine energy is and reclaim that. So the current challenges for independent women, life usually for you looks pretty amazing on the outside. So anyone looking at you thinks, you've got it all. You've got the house, you've got the job, the title, the money, you've got all of these things. And yet internally, you could be anywhere on a spectrum of just feeling a mild discontent. Like, I have so much, I should be grateful. Why am I sad? Why am I feeling unfulfilled? And if we stay in that long enough and we're not doing anything about it, then we have these bouts of depression. And that is, it's on the rise on our planet right now. And worse is when it gets to the end of that spectrum where people are now suicidal. It's like, what's the point? Why do I work so hard? Why do I do what I'm doing? What is the point? And that's a dangerous place for us to get to. We feel exhausted, we feel overwhelmed, we're feeling that we're overworked. We can't wait for Friday afternoon and just, so we can have the weekend off. We have the co-workers that are also putting pressure on us, right? Relationships. This is something that's so rife right now, and we don't really talk about it much. We've been trained, conditioned to put on this mask that everything's fine, everything's great, I've got this. But inside of us, we may not be feeling that way. A lot of the independent women are now overly independent. I've heard really beautiful women that have so much to offer say, I don't need a man. Why should I have a man in my life when I've got everything that I want? But inside, she's feeling really alone and she's yearning for that connection, right? And if we can't find that connection, and I'm going to tell you exactly why we can't find the connection, we don't want to be vulnerable and show that side of us. And one of the key reasons is that we've actually lost connection with other people. And I think the lockdown just amplified that for us. And more especially, we've lost that connection with ourselves. We've lost that connection with our own divine feminine energy. On the relationship side, some of the challenges that we're seeing is we're afraid to have those deeper conversations. If we are in a relationship or if we're single and we can't find that partner, we don't talk about these things, right? The ones that are single say, I've got no idea where to find a quality partner. I'm finding these men, but they're just not what I'm looking for. And I'm not going to settle. And good on you, you should never settle, right? When you do have a partner, we seem to turn to another instead of investing in our own relationship because we're not having the deeper conversations. We're talking about our partners rather than to them. Right? We all know this, right? We get together with our girlfriends and it's like, he did this and he said that, and how could he? And I'm just so tired of this. And the girlfriends who love you, they're always in your camp, are always going to say to you, hey, you deserve so much better. You shouldn't put up with this. You need to stand your ground. And generally, when we're in a situation like that, we actually don't need advice. We need transformation, right? The other challenge is, in the past, families lived together. You had the parents and then, their kids and their spouses came in and the grandkids. So there was a lot of support. But today we have nuclear families where as soon as you marry, you're out on your own. Even before you get married, you're out on your own. And so when we have this partner, we want this partner to play all of the roles. We want them to be our best friend. We want them to be the lover, the parent, the confidant, someone that's going to give us advice. We want this one person to play all these roles, and it really becomes quite impossible. So I want to talk about masculine and feminine energies here. So it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. We all have both masculine and feminine energies within us. Now, if we go too much to the masculine or too much to the feminine, our lives will be out of balance. And it shows in our relationships, it shows in, our work, our finances, our health. All of it is impacted by the imbalance. So the idea is for us to understand whether we are overly masculine or overly feminine, and how do we harmonize these energies within ourselves. So let's look at what the excessive masculine energy looks like. So as you're looking at this, I want you to look at yourself and say, how many of these characteristics do I possess? And then I want you to look at the people that are closest to you in your life and see how many of these characteristics they may possess. Okay? So the excessive masculine, he can initially be very, very charming. This is someone that can come in and you think, oh, wow, this is fantastic. We have such a great connection. But this person actually wants complete control. So as long as you are complying and you're doing exactly what they want, everything is fine. But the moment you assert some kind of independence and you want something that's different from what they want, then they become really controlling. And if it goes on, that control turns into abuse. They will undermine you every chance they get. You will never be a priority in this person's life because their priority is about, it's about the status, it's about what I have, the things, the watch, the cars, the houses, the titles, it's all of that. So that will always be a priority for this person with excessive masculine energy, and never you in a relationship. And this excessive masculine energy, when we look at it worldwide, we can see the effect of this in the world. We have war. We have the majority of companies that are focused on profits above all else. So it doesn't matter if the staff are suffering, if they are overworked, if they're overwhelmed, if they're just so exhausted, or if we're damaging the planet in some way. It doesn't matter. It's profits above everything else. And this excessive masculine energy is led to human suffering, where we don't care that there are people starving in the world anymore, as long as we are getting what it is we want, right? So just look at that and see if there's anything there that relates to you or someone in your life. Then we have the excessive feminine energy. This energy is all about manipulation. So remember, it can be a man or a woman, right? So it's all about manipulation. It's how can I get what I want using any means possible? And again, it doesn't matter who I hurt in the process. So this is someone who will want you to be a certain way so that they look good. So I want this for you because I know what's best, right? So we have parents who will steer their children towards a particular career, as an example. Doesn't matter that the child wants something completely different, and they may even have a talent in something completely different, but they steer them in this direction because it's going to make them look good. They do the same thing when you're choosing a life partner. So if this partner that you've fallen in love with, that you think is the love of your life, is different and doesn't fit into your family, whether it's a race difference, a religious difference, their background is different from yours, or the way they look, whatever it is, they will reject this person and not think that I need to think of my child's happiness first and foremost. The excessive feminine is very jealous. Right? So it's no one can be better than me. I've got to always be better, look better, have more. And this is where you get women attacking women. And I find that so, so sad when I see that happening. Instead of us supporting each other and rising up together, it's if a woman is progressing, then there's always someone there wanting to pull her down. So the women that are my generation, so I'm 57 years old, right? And my generation was predominantly the first generation of women that were studying and working. The generation before me, it was very few and far between. They were rather the exception rather than the rule. So my generation was the first. And a lot of us, we looked at our mothers and we said they didn't have any money of their own. They couldn't make any decisions. They had to rely on their partners to take care of them. And we felt that we didn't quite want to be that, right? So we wanted something different. So remember in the 1960s, that was the whole rise of the women burning their bras and fighting for freedom and equality and all of that, right? And we really take our hats off to all of those women that started that movement back then. But what has happened is that a lot of my generation or the generation above me have now taught their daughters, don't ever rely on a man to take care of you. You have to be independent. You have to have your own money. You have to make your own decisions. And what's happened when we did that is that these daughters that received this advice are more in their masculine energy than their feminine. So now I'm overly independent. I don't need a man. I can do this for myself. I can do anything for myself. And you know, you can see it in small things like where a man wants to open the car door for a woman and she says, I can do that myself. You know, that it's a little thing, but then there's the big things as well, right? Let's look at the wounded masculine energy. And this I find is there's just so many men that are here today. I'll tell you why you're so frustrated with them, right? So the wounded masculine is when they were little, they were most likely bullied, either by parents or in school by other kids. They were most likely bullied. They were told things like children should be seen and not heard. So you are not allowed to have an opinion. You are not allowed to add to the conversation when your parents are speaking or you have guests over. You just had to be quiet and be the good girl, the good boy. So as adults, these individuals cannot take the lead. They cannot make decisions. They cannot provide the structure and the security and the safety that the masculine energy provides. They can't do that, right? And I'll show you in a minute who attracts who. So why do we have all of this wounded energy on our planet? Remember, the excessive and the wounded are all wounded energy because the excessive also didn't get a chance to express who they were as children. So now as adults, they are overly expressive, overly controlling. So the result of the reasons why we have this kind of dilemma now is the unhealed emotional wounds. A lot of the times, parents can take care of their children physically. So you may have a roof over your head, you'll have food on the table, they give you education, and you know, you may even have gone on a holiday now and then, and they take care of you. So your basic needs are always taken care of. And as a result, we feel, oh, but I was taken care of. I had a good childhood. I didn't want for anything. But the bigger question is, were your emotional needs taken care of? Because if you were sad about something, and then the parents said to you, oh, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Come, let's go have an ice cream. So they didn't really ask you, why are you feeling sad? Oh, I see that you're sad. What is going, and really connect with you and help you understand that emotion, right? So most parents, I know my parents, and they just could not deal with emotion. They didn't show emotion towards each other in front of us. And you wonder how we came about if, there was no love between the two of them. So they're not able to understand your emotional needs and provide for that. And then, of course, there's some parents that are quite abusive, right? So then emotionally, when you were being told, you're fit for nothing, you're so clumsy, you're so lazy, what's wrong with you? Why can't you be like, either your sibling or your cousin or somebody? Why can't you be like anybody else but yourself? These are all the emotional wounds that we carry with us into adulthood. So the father wound is generally there when now you find that you're attracting partners that don't provide the leadership, the guidance, the safety. You don't feel safe with them. And it's usually because you didn't get that from the original male figure in your life, which was your father. So if your father didn't provide the safety for you, inside of you, you're always going to have that wound. So as adults, we attract the man that is very similar in the hope that this time around, we're going to heal that wound, right? The mother wound is where you don't feel worthy. You don't have a sense of belonging, because the mother is the one that's supposed to hold you, hug you, nurture you, tell you how wonderful you are. And a lot of the time they had their own focus, they had their own challenges to deal with, and they didn't quite provide that on an emotional level. Especially if they had a few kids and there was just no time, or, some of them could have been working part-time and then taking care of kids, that becomes difficult. So they're not providing the emotional needs there. So as a result of this wounding, I'm going to show you how we attract people into our lives as adults, right? Whether we're attracting them as a boss or a partner or a friend, whatever, I'm going to show you how we attract people into our lives. So this cycle will continue, right? How many times have you met somebody and you thought, oh, this person is just so amazing. This is it. This is my soulmate. And then a little while later, you find that there's a whole lot of conflict. The person's not who you thought they were. And then that relationship ends. And then you don't want to meet another person again. But after a while, that yearning for connection comes up. And then you meet another person and the cycle is the same. And you think, I'm meeting different people, but it's the same pattern in all these relationships. What's going on? This is what's going on, right? So the cycle will continue until we stop and we say, it's time for me to go within and do the inner healing work. So the way these unhealed wounds manifest in our lives is, one way is addiction. And the common addictions are, alcohol, drugs, smoking. But addiction goes a lot further than that, because we have internet addiction, we have porn addiction, sex addiction, we have food addictions, sugar addictions. Sometimes we just binge watching Netflix. All of these kinds of things the addiction is there because inside of us, we feel this void, this emptiness, something is missing. And we're trying to bring all of these things in and try to fill up that emptiness inside of us. And no matter how much of that stuff we put in, we don't ever feel fulfilled from those things, because that's not the answer, right? That's not what we really, really want. When we have unhealed wounds, we also have very weak boundaries. So you'll find that people will step over the line, they will cross your boundaries, they will use you, they will abuse you, because we are not able to set clear boundaries in terms of what we will allow and what we will not allow in our lives. And then another way is escapism. And escapism can be anything, like I said, binge watching Netflix, or it could also look positive on the outside, where it's, I have clients that have multiple degrees and they're still going for the next one. So it's like, I'm really busy, I'm studying, I have exams, I have assignments, and, and I'm doing all of this work because I want to get ahead in my career. But once that is done, it's the next thing. Once that is done, it's the next thing. And then you've got to ask yourself, is this what my soul yearns for, or am I escaping the pain of these unhealed wounds? The other way it manifests is that we attract really challenging relationships. So initially it all feels great, our soulmate, and then after a little while we're feeling like um, everything, all those unhealed wounds, that person is going to trigger and trigger and trigger. And that's how the universe is very, very kind. It'll give you an opportunity for healing. You don't take it. It'll give you another opportunity to heal. You don't take it, give you another one. And each time that opportunity comes, it's a little bit bigger, a little bit more in your face, a little bit more painful, until you get to the point and you say, enough is enough. I can't live this way anymore. Something's got to shift, something's got to change. And I'm saying to you that you don't have to wait until it is so bad. At any point, we can say, you know what, I deserve better, I want better for myself, and I'm prepared to do the work now, right? The faster you do that, the less of the challenge you'll experience. So as this goes on and on and on, and we haven't healed, we can get into that state of depression where it's like we're here, we're doing stuff, we go to work every day, we come home, we, cook, we have a meal, we do whatever needs to be done, but there's no sense of joy in life, real joy, real happiness. That's the part that's missing. That sense of purpose, the passion is gone. That's when we know those unhealed wounds are starting to fester and they're becoming bigger and bigger. It's calling your attention. You have to look at this. You have to release this. You have to heal this. And then you come into wholeness. And then the joy flows. Then the love flows. All of that flows in your life. And then another way that these unhealed wounds manifest is shame. This is something that we don't even want to talk about, right? And I know Brené Brown does some amazing work. She's done the most amazing research on shame. This is anything that has happened to you, anything that you've done or that's been done to you that you don't ever want to talk. You don't want anybody to know about this. That is shame. And that is a wound that will fester in the worst possible way, because when we don't deal with these emotional wounds, at some point it's going to manifest in the physical body as illness, right? If you look at cancer as an example, I mean, 1 in 3 people now today you hear it's cancer. What is going on? It's because there's resentment. That cancer is an illness of resentment. So if you have resentment and it builds and builds and builds and you're not letting go, that's the illness. When people have a heart attack, it's because they've shut down their hearts. I've been hurt. I never want to get hurt again. So I'm going to shut down my heart. I'm closing it off. I'm going to put on the suit of armor and nobody's going to get in. But when you don't let anybody in, you're protecting yourself so much from the hurt and the pain. So you're keeping all that out, but you're also keeping the love and the joy and happiness out at the same time. And you cannot survive without the love and joy in your life. So this is how we attract partners, right? So if you are coming from an excessive masculine energy, you will attract the wounded feminine. All right. So it's, that saying of opposites attract. This is exactly what it means. So the excessive masculine will attract the wounded feminine. This is the victim that attracts the abuser. And it's this codependent relationship that they have. If you are excessive feminine energy, you will attract the wounded masculine. So the excessive feminine, remember, it's all about the image of how I want things to be my way. I've got to have everything that I want. It doesn't matter how I manipulate to get it. And that female attracts the wounded masculine, and the wounded masculine is like, yes, I'll do whatever you want. I'll just be quiet. I won't argue. I won't say you're wrong in any way, because he's beaten down. And at some point, the excessive female hates that. So she looks at him and she despises him for weakness, right? So that's how the excessive and the wounded attract. So the answer to this is that we have to release the excessive, heal the wounded, and come into the balanced masculine, balanced feminine inside of us first and foremost, right? So we've got to have both inside of us. And then when we attract someone who has balanced masculine and feminine energy within themselves. So let's look at what the balanced masculine looks like. This is someone that is very logical. He is able to be analytical. He writes goals down. He follows through with action. He makes things happen. This is the person that provides the order, the structure, the safety, the discipline. This is someone that's very confident. He's kind. He's giving. He has mastered his emotions. So I'm sure when you look at this, you say, oh, I want a man like that, right? So let's look at what the balanced feminine looks like. And by the way, if you look at the balanced masculine, ask yourself, how many of these am I? Because the more of these that you check off, and most of my independent women, most of my clients are women in corporate high-end positions, their management roles, or they own their own businesses. And the majority of them have all the masculine qualities in them, right? But what about the feminine? Do we have it? Have we suppressed it? Have we shoved it aside because we were taught that the feminine is weak? Absolutely not. The feminine energy is extremely powerful. And if we understand just how powerful it is, then we want to bring both that masculine and feminine into a beautiful balance. So while the masculine is doing, the feminine is being. It's about presence. While the masculine is giving, the feminine is receptive. So that sense of worthiness, it's the queen energy in you. The worthiness, I belong, I know who I am. That's queen energy, right? It's also nurturing first to ourselves. Do I have a strong sense of self-love, self-esteem? Do I care for myself? Can I nurture myself first so that I can nurture other people as well? When we are in the wounded feminine energy, we like in that mode where we're the victim, life is happening to us. Then what we do with the nurturing is we become people pleasers. So we're doing too much. So when we do too much like that, because we're trying to earn the love, with the balanced feminine, the queen knows I deserve love. I'm worthy. I don't need to go out and earn it. I don't need to be different from who I am. I don't need to be a people pleaser, right? Balanced feminine is very creative, and this is the power of the feminine. Think about it. We can birth souls into this world. That's how powerful the feminine energy is. So creative in terms of anything and everything. If you are creating a new relationship, it's feminine energy. If you're building a house, if you're building a business, whatever it is you want to create, it calls first and foremost for the feminine energy. Okay, it's also very intuitive. And if we take the creativity and the intuition, what will happen is you will achieve more in your life by doing less. All right? I think you like the sound of that because I love it. Like right now, I work about 24 hours a week, and my goal is to get that down to 16 hours a week. So there's a nice balance in life. Life is not here, so, it's all about the work. And most of my clients, the work takes up 90% of the energy, right? And the 10% they have left is for the rest of life. And it should not be that way at all. When we embrace our feminine energy, we will not achieve less. No. We will achieve a lot more. Because when you bring in your intuition, if you have to make a decision about something, the masculine energy is logical and will say, okay, so let's put down all these points, take the page, positive, negatives, and then we make decisions from there. The feminine feels into the right direction and will take the right action in the first place, whereas the masculine will try that. Oh no, that didn't work. Let's go and change this. Let's go and tweak this. Let's try again. No, that didn't work. Let's go and change. Let's try again. So there's like 4 or 5 tries before you get to the right outcome, whereas the feminine energy will feel into it and use the intuition to be directed to the right action in the first place, getting a better result, because the feminine values community, it's a win for all, not just personal gain, but a win for all. So she will achieve more and better results by doing less. And of course, the best part about the feminine energy is she attracts to her what it is she desires. She does not ever have to chase. So what's the possibility? If we heal, if we take this excessive masculine and feminine and we release that, if we take the wounded masculine and feminine and we heal that, we really take the time, we go within, we see where the pain is, and we say, no, why my life is the way it is now. I've got to heal that. I've got to release that. I've got to forgive that. Right? I've got to reprogram my mind. I've got to do the self-care, and I've got to heal my heart. When you do this, when you take the time to do this, can you imagine when you have an open heart, you're not afraid of being hurt anymore? And look, life is a risk. Love is a risk. We will get hurt. But when you come from your authenticity, when you're a full, whole person standing in your power, you know that whatever life throws you, you can handle it. That's the difference. That is why you're able to open your heart, because you trust yourself and you trust life. You know who you are. You know why you're here. Now imagine creating your life from that space of wholeness, creating your relationships, your job, managing your finances, your health, all of it from that place of wholeness. Can you see how different life would be? Life would be this adventure. It's exciting. It's you really living from your inner radiance and magnificence, creating the joy, the happiness that you desire. Right? So you're living from your full feminine energy, but also balanced with your masculine energy. We don't get rid of the masculine energy. No, we need it, because in life, there's times we need to take action. We need to lead. We need to make those decisions. But now we've got the feminine energy that's coming in and harmonizing with that so that life flows for us. So when we've healed and when we're coming from this place of wholeness, let's look at what our relationships can look like. Conscious relationships are about that really deep, genuine connection between two people. You're not coming here hoping somebody is going to fulfill you, complete you, make you happy. No, you're already all of that. Now you're coming together to co-create this epic relationship. There's vulnerability. And, vulnerability is not about going on social media and telling your story. I call that vomiting all over social media. That's not vulnerability. Vulnerability is, can you be with someone that has earned your trust, someone who, they've earned your trust, you've earned their trust, and you're coming together and you're sharing your deepest stories with this person, because that vulnerability is what really creates the connection. And we're too afraid of being vulnerable, because we're afraid we're going to be judged, we're going to be ridiculed, we're going to be rejected based on that. And that's the shame that we carry, right? So I said that is one of the lowest frequency emotions we can have. And we'll always be stuck if we're holding on to that shame and covering it up. With conscious relationships, you have a common vision of this life you want to create together, and you're conscious of it. So with each decision, with each action, are we moving towards our vision or away from it? If it's away, no, this is not for us. If it's to, yes, this is for us, we take that step. Right? It is about mutual acceptance and genuine support of each other. So it's wanting for your partner what they want for themselves, not what you want for them. See the difference? So you can have your own goals and dreams, and they have theirs, and you're mutually supporting each other to step into your fullest potential as individuals. Those are the best kind of relationships you get. So each one is living their purpose and the other is supporting them, right? There is genuine trust here. There's honesty. There'll never be cheating and third person coming into this relationship, because you know what you're building together. And this is so valuable that nothing and no one can come in here and disrupt that. And the most important thing is that these relationships are always evolving. With the fairy tale, it's, it's the chase. And then when I find the right partner, we'll fall in love and live happily ever after. And that fairy tale has led to a divorce rate of 53% in first marriages and 67% in second marriages and 72% in third marriages, right? So let's put the fairy tale aside and let us consciously create the best relationships we can have, consciously creating it. It's like we put in all the time and energy when it comes to our work. We study for years and years and years on end. We start at the bottom, we work our way up, we gain experience. But when it comes to relationships, what do we do? How much time do we spend learning how to create epic relationships? All right, something to think about. And when you're in your space of wholeness, authenticity, you'll find that you're attracted to the work that lights you up, because this work is you living your purpose. It's aligned with your purpose. So you don't have to feel like, oh, Monday morning again, and I can't wait till Friday afternoon. If your work lights you up, it doesn't matter the day of the week. You're feeling alive and full of passion because you love what you do and you love the impact that you can make, right? And when you're doing that kind of work and working from that kind of energy, you'll find that abundance flows naturally to you. You have a feeling of belonging where you are, in your family, your work, in this world. So as human beings, we are built for connection. There's very, very few people that I come across that sometimes they're on a very deep spiritual path and they feel they have to walk that journey alone. And they do that and they are completely fulfilled. But for the other 99.9% of us, we yearn for connection. We yearn to be seen, to be known exactly as we are, to the core of our being, and to be loved and accepted exactly as we are. But my question to you is, how vulnerable are we to being seen, to putting ourselves out there, to being visible, to let other people in so that they can really, truly know us and love us? Right? It means that we have to take the masks off, we have to take the armor off, we've got to drop the shield, we've got to really step into our authenticity, our radiance, our magnificence, and from that place we live our lives. All right? So if this resonated with you, the content here resonated with you, and if you really want to know whether your masculine or feminine energy is dominant, and you want to know exactly where you have wounded masculine, excessive masculine and balanced, and the same with the feminine, wounded, excessive, balanced. If you want to know exactly where that is, because everywhere where you see the wounded or the excessive, that's blocking you from living your best life. So if you can find out where those blocks are, then you know, okay, next step is healing, right? And I have a program called Consciously Creating Epic Relationships that will help you to really go really deep into relationships, finding those blocks, healing, doing all the healing work, understanding like our love languages, our attachment styles, how we show up, ways in which we can communicate on a deeper level, be vulnerable, consciously create these relationships that we want, right? So if you want to know anything about it, I'm offering you a free assessment firstly. So the assessment will talk a lot about your masculine and feminine and where you are right now. I will send you you drop me an email on info@nextlevelup.co.za. I will then send you the assessment. Once you've answered that, we'll set up a Zoom call and then we'll have a chat and I'll give you your results. I'll tell you exactly where the blocked energy is and where you are in flow. And then I'll tell you a bit about the program as well. And you can decide then if that is something you want to do. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here, watching this, and I hope this resonates with you and you're ready to take the next step. Take care.